There we go.
Yes, got it.
Hi.
Good morning, Lo.
Good morning. Okay, let's see if anyone joins us on a 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Hopefully,
That's
we'll have some
it. Nice
parents
and
out
early.
there who maybe have some little ones down for naps or something.
Exactly. Maybe good timing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I thought it would be fun to hop on and do a live because you were just on my podcast, The Milk Making Minutes. We recorded some time ago, but it just released this week. And you talked about your journey to finally finding really like true peace and empowerment in breastfeeding. And it took a long time to get there, really.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
You probably had a little bit of equilibrium before that 13-month mark, would you say?
Moments. I would say moments, but not like a state of being. It would be like glimpses of like, okay, I'm not in survival mode right now.
Okay.
But that didn't last for long.
Okay.
I think it was a good like 18 months to 24 months before we really got to experiencing longer states of like peace and empowerment and confidence, which is crazy when you really think about how long I waited.
Yeah, and especially if you think about the amount of time most people in the US feed their babies from their bodies. Like,
Right.
A lot of people might never get there. They might never feel that full feeling of, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like.
Exactly. And that's part of the reason, we talked about ties in the interview. And it was one of those things that even the IBCLC that we went to and finally got an assessment. If anyone's watching, I highly recommend that. But when we did go see the IBCLC, my daughter was 13 months. So that was one of the comments she made. She was like, well, she's already 13 months. Like, if you really want to, then you can go ahead with, XYZ. But it was almost, like even her, she wasn't like, yeah, I hear you want to keep breastfeeding, like keep going. It was my own intuition kicking in, being like, yeah, I am going to do all of these things and continue on. So it's interesting that you say that because that's the thing, the breastfeeding time frame is much shorter for others. And there's so many factors that go into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we know that if you look anthropologically, historically, and across cultures, the biological age for weaning is between ages 2 and 7.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying that that's what every person has to do. Like that's not how our modern lives work. I fed my babies until years, 3 and 4. But I recognize that not everybody is in a position to do that. Not everybody is feeling good about feeding their babies from their bodies. So every drop, every teaspoon has 3 million antibodies. So any amount of milk you give your babies is amazing. Plus the comfort, plus the bonding, it's not just about the antibodies. So, but we do know that humans historically have fed their babies for a long time. And my son, he had multiple tongue ties. And that really, they did get resolved, but the pain never went away. And I fed him for over 3.5 years. And he had 4 procedures done. Like we had one done in the pediatric office, then we had another done with in a hospital setting. I can't remember the provider that did that. Then we had lasers and a pediatric dentist. And then he went under general anesthesia with an ear, nose, and throat doctor because it needed to be it needed to be they couldn't just release it because it kept coming back, even with the exercises and everything. And so it needed to be a more stringent procedure. But so it needed stitches, is what I was trying to say. But all that to say, even he was like 4 months by the time we did that final procedure. And even then, they were like, well, maybe 5 months. They were like, well, how long are you planning on continuing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I just want to feed my baby, and I just want it to be comfortable.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize there were that many procedures that you guys did. So you went through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In just a few months.
Yeah. 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 And then for you, it turned out that even the tongue tie procedure was not the only thing.
Right. Exactly. So for those who aren't familiar, my daughter had colic and eczema and reflux and food allergies through my breast milk. And especially her reflux, that was one of the biggest things that I just, for many of you, if you're familiar with that world, the elimination diet process is something that's talked about often. And this is just from my experience, something I want to help other moms with, is knowing that sometimes you don't have to eliminate from your diet. You don't have to go and make your life more stressful, because there can be other root causes underlying things. So, for example, for my daughter's reflux, a huge portion of that was actually her oral ties. And it wasn't until 15 months old, when we finally got the procedure done, that all of a sudden I was like, wow, her reflux is so much better. And it, I was killing myself eliminating all these things from my diet. And, she did have other signs and symptoms. So I'm giving myself grace. And, also we only do our best with what we know at the time. So at the time, that was the information I was getting, not realizing that there was a whole piece that I was missing. So I just, again, encourage people to go and see the IBCLC, especially if you are seeing those things, because there's so many lactation components that can be root causes. And then there are numerous other root causes as well, physical, structural, and again, also like emotional and energetic, that play a part in that too. So that was the aha moment, you could say, or like the light bulb moment, that we have to address things from a multimodal perspective. We can't just look at one answer as like the solution to everything. And some people may have some, improvement if that is the root cause, but oftentimes there are multiple root causes. And unless we really take the time to do an assessment evaluation and dig into that, oftentimes we don't see resolution, we don't see improvement. And I think that is, in my experience, where many of the moms that reach out to me in those early months, and then they don't want to continue working forwards, they end up giving up early because they're not addressing all of those root causes. So that's just something I've seen, especially over the past year with I've had so many moms reaching out, but then if we don't do the work, then the change that you're seeing isn't going to be as great. And some do stop their breastfeeding journeys prematurely. And I also absolutely acknowledge that you have to do what's best for you and your mental health and the relationship. And if you're in your heart, that you do want to continue, then there are ways that we can work through the root causes and get you resolution and continue your breastfeeding journey, your bonding journey, your relationship, etc.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, the problem with the possibility of there being multiple root causes is when you go, oftentimes what we do as parents is we go to our pediatrician and we expect them to be the person who has the answers. And, when my child breaks their arm, I am going to go to the pediatrician. They are the right person to go to that. I mean, hopefully it's not my child breaking their arm. My baby is not going to break their arm, but I have kids that are 9 and 5, or, my child burned her when she was a toddler. She burned her hands on a heater. I immediately rushed her to the pediatrician. That was the right call for that. Our pediatricians are well trained in many areas of caring for our babies. Unfortunately, they only receive about 3 hours total in baby feeding.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So they are not breastfeeding experts. And so when we're coming to them and we're asking them to help us identify these root causes, they may have on their own sought out further education. And so you might be working with somebody who has decided this is important for my practice, this is important for my patients, and they might have more training. But unless you ask them that, the baseline is not that they have a lot of training in breastfeeding. And so they might not know the root causes even possible. And so, yes, they might know that, oh, yes, allergens can pass in breast milk. We can try that. If you come to them and say, my baby is fussy, I think they might have food allergies, they might know enough to say, yeah, sure. like a baby can be allergic to protein and cow's milk protein, go ahead and try to eliminate dairy. But they might just go with what you present to them instead of being the expert themselves that's going to say, hold on, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture of everything that's going on for you and your baby, because they don't fully understand human milk. They don't fully understand human milk supply. They don't fully understand the breastfeeding dyad like an IBCLC will, who has 95 hours initially of human breast milk feeding education plus additional education as they maintain that certification. So that's a really important distinction, that they may or may not have that training. It's not required to be a pediatrician. And
Absolutely.
so that's why it's important to work with them as a team. And unfortunately, IBCLCs understand that importance of working with a pediatrician as a team, but pediatricians don't often value the work of an IBCLC. And so we're striking that balance of, yes, we really understand the relationship has to be maintained between the breastfeeding mom and her pediatrician. That is so, so important. And so we really hesitate to say something that goes against what your pediatrician has said, because we want you to keep that good relationship with them. But the pediatrician is often not sending you to us when it is necessary to get to more root causes. And so it makes it really hard to sometimes evaluate and see what else could be going on.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And you bring up that really important topic, is that teamwork, because even in my work, that's one of the first steps. Is I typically do refer out to an IBCLC for that assessment, because it's so important, especially in the breastfeeding moms that I work with. And sometimes even in the formula feeding moms that I work with, because we know that if there are oral ties, even with a bottle, depending on the severity of them, there may be symptoms from that as well. So it's such a key component, and that team approach is really great as well, because we all come from a different perspective. We all have different training. We all see things a little differently. And that's where I've actually seen the best is collaboration. I just had an IBCLC message me the other day going, hey, I'm seeing this and this and this. I'm not understanding what's going on. Would you be able to take a look at them? You know, and so that working together, we can really get a comprehensive, again, that assessment evaluation and make decisions together with the mom and the baby, including all of that, which is really like, that's the standard of care, in my opinion. You want that high quality standard of care. And you know, even when you mentioned the pediatrician being able to say, oh yeah, you know, a dairy allergy is possible, so eliminate dairy from your diet, etc. That's what my pediatrician said. Now, when you're on the other side of that and you're going, all right, so dairy is like milk, butter, cheese. Okay, I got that. But you're still eating, like I did for a while. I was eating processed foods with dairy in it, and I had no clue. And so many of the moms that I've worked with in the past, same thing. They're like, oh, no, I'm dairy free, so I need to eliminate XYZ, you know, 10 other ingredients. And I'm like, well, hold on. I like to go one step at a time. Let's make sure that you really are dairy free. So that's one of like the mini courses that I offer, is really going in depth in that, because many moms think they're dairy free and they're really not. And then they're making their life more stressful because they're eliminating more and more and more and trying to do all these crazy things, when really, let's just take care of one ingredient. And that's where like the pediatrician was not able to support me. And again, it's their training. They know, again, this little piece of the puzzle, and there's a lot more to it. And especially, I think if you have never experienced it and gone through it yourself, it's challenging to understand like the enormity of it. And when you think it's just, maybe the pediatrician does think that it's just milk and cheese, you know, then you're not, there's a gap there. There's a gap in knowledge. There's a gap in being able to help this person and truly help the baby as well.
Yeah, and then you're left alone to figure it out on your own, or you decide, you know what, I'm just going to go soy formula. That's way easier than having to navigate on this on my own. And given how little support we get as parents trying to feed our babies, I totally get that sometimes that is what people need to do to feel happy and to feel connected to their babies. Because if you are stressing so much about your diet while feeding your baby and you're not able to connect with your baby as a result, then sometimes, given the landscape we have with feeding, that is the best decision. But that's why you and I are here, to try to help people feel more supported, help people to feel like whatever their path is that they take, that, you know, they can still connect with their babies. But let's hope that they feel supported before they have to make the tough choice of not feeding breast milk to their babies when that is what they wanted in the first place.
Right. Absolutely. And that like reminds me of connecting to that intuition and your heart and that mama instinct, because there is a disconnect in so many moms, I feel like. And what it comes down to is, I think as children, we were taught not to trust our bodies, or we were rather conditioned not to trust our bodies. And so now when we are mothers and we're in this place, we may have a challenge at accessing that mama instinct, that inner mama bear, that intuition. And that's one of these kind of unspoken about root causes sometimes that I really like to focus on: the emotional aspects, the energetic aspects, the spiritual aspects, because our intuition, our mama instinct, is so powerful. And when we can tap into that, you already know what's best for your baby. You already know the answers to what you need in the given moment. You already know the answers to what your child needs. It's a matter of tapping into that, becoming aware and present, and trusting yourself as well with that intuitive process. And that is, it's really empowering, because once moms start recognizing that, and, you know, there is some guidance that's needed, because again, we can only do the best with what we know. If we don't know to ask XYZ, or if we don't know to like look in a certain direction, then it can limit our possibilities. It can limit what we're going to choose to do. But if you have the options presented in front of you, and then you're able to tap into that intuition, 9 times out of 10, you already know what you need. You already know what you need to do and what's going to be best for you and your baby. And that is, in my opinion, it's like magical, because you're like, oh, I've got this. Like, and it's powerful. You feel so confident and calm when you have that support and that guidance through it. And that is, again, it's just magical. It's awesome when I see moms being like, oh, I already knew this. I just need to follow that. And, you know, I just needed some reassurance. And, you know, it's amazing when we give the power back to the mom.
Yeah, often the anxiety that we fight is the anxiety of the external voices. You know,
Right.
like we are afraid to speak up because there are external voices telling us that what we think or feel is wrong. But if we're able to learn how to say, actually, no, this is what I need to do right now in this moment for myself and for my baby, and this is only a short amount of time. You know, even when it comes to things like baby sleep, you know, like, or kids sleep,
Yeah.
I still fight those voices, because my kids still need me a lot in the middle of the night at ages 5 and 9. I don't know if I should say that to a baby crowd, but they do. You know, those needs don't go away as they grow up.
Yeah.
And I could get strict and say, no, you have to figure it out and soothe yourself back to sleep. Or I could say, you know what? I want them to know when they're teenagers and they need me in the middle of the night, that I'm the person that they call.
Right.
And so that's when the stakes are high. And so the way that they learn that is now when the stakes are low. And so even though I'm exhausted, and even though I'm tired, and even though I wish that they didn't need me in the middle of the night sometimes, I'm still going to pick up and crawl into their little twin-sized beds. And I'm not going to worry about the external voices that tell me, oh, they need to learn to soothe themselves, because I know differently. The way that they learn to soothe themselves is by being soothed.
Right. And that's you following your intuition and your heart right there. You know, deep inside, you're able to push aside those societal, cultural, you know, things we see on TV, and you're able to follow that, which is wonderful. And that's, I mean, this is where it has like generational impact, because by creating that strong attachment bond and relationship with your children now, again, they're going to trust you moving forwards. And when their parents, when they are having kids, right, when they're parents, they're going to be able to model that, and they're going to feel that love that they experienced. And it's going to be much easier for them to do that for their little ones. And when we have a strong attachment, that literally changes your life. 100%. It changes your personality. It changes the joy that you feel. It changes your happiness. It has a direct impact on your health. And that's one of the, again, kind of like not talked about factors of if you do some reflux or food allergies. There are underlying emotional, energetic factors that play into that are root causes. And by paying attention to those emotional energetics, by becoming aware of them, and then working through them, integrating them, processing them, we can have physical changes at the same time from emotional work and energetic work. Our body tends to go into fight or flight when we are having those voices coming in, and when we are feeling anxious or feeling not good enough or like we're doing everything wrong. And that literally has physiological changes on our body. And that's the amazing thing, is that especially as a mom, when we work on ourselves, we can actually get physiological changes in our babies as well, which is, again, amazing and a root cause that not many focus on. And this is the one that has lifetime implications. You as a mom, you feel more energized, happier, healthier. You can be there for your kids. You can support them in the middle of the night, or during the day, whatever's going on. But then your children feel that. They don't play off of that anxious energy that you may have, or whatever. And their relationship with you changes, and then you're just shaping them for the best opportunities in life going forwards, which is, I think, what any mom would want for her kids, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't do bedtime perfectly every night because I get exhausted, and sometimes I'm like, just freaking go to sleep.
Yeah.
But the times when I do it well, the thing that I tell to parents now who are struggling with sleep, I wish that when my oldest was a baby, I wish I had just had a ball, a crystal ball that told me what he was going to be like when he was 9, because he has sensory needs that as a 9-year-old, that I can now see in his little baby body, that I was trying to change him, the baby.
Right.
Because culturally I was being told that's what I should do. That's what my pediatrician was telling me. That's what peers were telling me. That's what the baby books were telling me. And it was stressing me out as the parent, because there was no changing that person.
Right.
And now as the 9-year-old, I understand that he is neurodiverse and he has sensory needs that makes it difficult for him to sleep no matter what. And we have learned to meet those sensory needs, so it is easier for him to fall asleep. But he also is a little bit of an anxious guy. And I have learned time that, when he was a baby, he would sleep as long as he was on top of me, because he needed that contact. He needed that close contact, or right next to me, or on my breast, right? And now I have learned that if he says, "Mom, I feel scared," I tried all the things. And now I learned, if I just say, "It's okay, just feel it. Just feel the scared." Yeah. And he feels the scared, and then the scared goes away. And he learns over time that it's okay to feel scared. I don't have to, it's not my job to make the scared go away. It's not my job to convince him not to feel scared. It's not my job to do anything but just be a calm presence for him, and to let him know that all feelings are valid. Now, I have learned this through working with professionals who have helped me figure this out, right? I didn't do this on my own. Yeah. But the reason I bring up this example is because I see this in him as a baby. If I look back at the 2-month-old, at the 3-month-old, at the 4-month-old, at the 5-month-old, at the 1-year-old, that was there. And I wish that I had been able just to lean into it a little more and not stress about it and try to change it, but just be the calm for him in the storm at those times.
Definitely. And it, again, like you hit the nail on the head with like the cultural and social standards. They're not norms, they're standards that are set at this point, and they're not realistic. And that's where we're losing touch with really, it's almost an art form of like mothering. And now, like you said, we're culturally taught that we should be changing the baby to fit into our schedule, to fit into this routine, that we need to break this habit. We need to stop them from manipulating us. We need to, make sure that they're good and obedient. And when we're doing that, we are not teaching them to trust themselves. We're teaching them that it's not okay to express themselves. We're teaching them that it's not safe, that it's they're going to lose your unconditional love if they express whatever it is that they're feeling. So I love that you help him to feel that scared, that fear, whatever it is, and say it's okay to feel that. It's good to feel that. Because one of the things I strongly believe in is that every emotion that we have has a purpose. So fear is usually there to protect us. And that is where the awareness piece comes in, to start recognizing that, all right, fear is coming up. Is this really a situation where I do need to be fearful for survival? Is there something that's really going to hurt me? Or is this an emotion that can pass through, and I can recognize that, all right, I'm scared, and it's still okay to move forward or do whatever it is. So I love that you're helping him with that. And, that's where, again, those emotions can get ingrained in us. It's called like trapped emotions can happen. If as children, we're constantly repressing and suppressing the emotions that our kids are experiencing, we're trying to have them not express them. And that is a lot of the time where the physiological changes start happening, where almost a trauma response start happening. And then these are the kids that grow up not trusting in themselves, not trusting their intuition, not trusting, not really knowing who they are. And it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? As a society, I think it's not what we want to strive for. We want to strive for, like you said, when they're teenagers, that they know that they can express themselves and they can come to you. And when they're adults, that they know that they can speak up at the board meeting or, whatever, and kind of having that self-worth and trust in themselves and confidence as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And this all ties back to how we address our children in those baby years and trust ourselves. Our kids can't trust themselves if we don't trust ourselves first. They pick up on that,
Absolutely. So much of the work is helping mom regulate her own nervous system, and that in turn helps baby feel supported and safe and regulated as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you sharing just a snippet of your story on the Milk Making Minutes. And we have had a ton of people join us today, but this will be on Instagram, so maybe some people will hop on and see snippets of this throughout the day and the weeks and months to come. And anything else that you want to share before we
yeah, no, I think we actually covered a lot today. I wasn't expecting to go so deep, but I love that we did.
I know. Yeah. Great. Well, so that's episode 43 of the Milk Making Minutes. If you want to hear Dr. Beata's journey to spiritual awakening through breastfeeding, really. And and then Dr. Beata, do you want to share your courses you have going on?
Oh, sure. I'd love that. So I have multiple different courses depending on the place where moms are. So especially if you are on an elimination diet, and especially if you have tried going dairy-free and it's just not quite working, the Jumpstart to a Happy and Healthy Breastfed Baby is where we go deep into that, where we make sure that you're not missing any pieces, and that we can help we work through certain root causes, and that does come with a one-on-one call so that you can get that customized guidance and support as well. I have a sleep workshop, the 3 Steps to the Best Sleep, which really focuses about everything that we talked about, that unconditional love, that tapping into your intuition and instincts, and also helping you work through other root causes that can be contributing to disturbed sleep. And then I also offer just one-off consultations. And something that I've been guided to focus on more recently is really this energetic work and helping clear some of these trapped emotions and experiences from our childhood as moms, because that is where I've seen the most drastic changes in the clients that I've worked with and myself, is when we start clearing those emotions and start integrating them and processing them, we literally become different people. So that is something as well that we can do during a session. So all of my links are on www.holisticdrbeata.com/resources. So you can go ahead and click through there. I also have a free, supportive, and empowering community on Facebook, Holistic Mindful Moms. So I encourage you to join if this is something that interests you. And you can always post questions in there. And I'm happy to help you on your journey, whether it is breastfeeding or otherwise, even if you're past the breastfeeding stage.
Amazing. Awesome. Thanks for taking the time this morning to connect with me. This has been so fun to talk.
Yes, thank you so much, Lo.
Awesome. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.